All right. Okay, as almost everyone knows, the economy is in a bad shape, but not everyone knows that there's no fixing this economy. How can you fix a spend borrowed money forever economy? If all you needed to do was print money, why do we have poor nations on earth? Why don't we just print money, drop it off in villages, and then everybody would be rich, right? And there's nothing special about the American consumer. Everyone wants things. So to think that people in China making our dishwashers and our washing machines don't want them and they prefer to clean things by hand is stupid. Demand for consumption is easy. Supply is the hard part. Now, the Keynesian idea that the Chinese cannot stop lending us money or will collapse and they'll lose $2 trillion in assets is stupid as well. Let's say I ask you to lend me $100 for clothing for a job interview, and then another $100 the next week for shoes, and then another 100 for watch and cologne, and another and another. Eventually, everyone here will get to the point they realize they're not going to get their money back, and they'll cut their losses. And if you say you'd want collateral up front, well, then you've proven my point even more. Would the Chinese rather lose 2 trillion or 10 trillion? Things are just going to get worse. And I'm going to show you ways to hedge. There's different ways to do it. I'll do mainly on metals, but there's several ways to do it. Hyperinflation is still a worse case scenario. Now, inflation is not rising prices. It's the expansion in the money supply, which in turn causes prices to rise. Now, they can't tell you this, so instead they'll call it quantitative easing or stimulus. If printing money had no effect, why did Bush give us a $700 check instead of $1 million check? I mean, after all, if we were all millionaires, wouldn't that get the economy moving? And why did gas prices rise considerably shortly after Obama's quantitative easing 1 and 2? The way to look at inflation, let's go with some crazy numbers here. And let's say that there was only $100 in circulation, and you're super rich, you're filthy rich, and you have $10. And then the Federal Reserve prints another $100. Well, then the money supply goes from $100 to $200. So therefore, you had 10% of the wealth out there, and it went down to 5%, meaning you lost 50% of your savings. This is what's happening to your bank account right now. This is exactly what's going on. They're printing money to pay for the free stuff they give us. What they can't borrow on interest, they print, and our prices rise. As far as purchasing power, that's what's being stolen from you. You have the same dollar amount, but what good is it? Let's say that the stock market went up, but gas and grocery went up too, but your savings account stayed the same. They're stealing your purchasing power. The more money you throw into circulation, the less it is worth. And that's what they're doing to pay for the free stuff they give us. Let's see, to explain the bond market, when the Fed buys bonds, they take money or credit out of thin air. When they sell bonds, they take those credits back. So when they buy their own bonds, they're just throwing money into circulation. To look at the money supply, let's say that you've got 10 people at an auction. Everybody has $50. Well, the most anybody can pay is going to be $50. Now, suppose the same people, same day, same auction, same items, are given $1,000 instead. what happens to the prices? They rise considerably. See, they can't tell you any of this. They want to blame it on greed. They want to blame it on somebody else. It's always somebody else, you know, I'm giving you this for free. Well, nothing's for free. Didn't we all learn that at 5 years old? And eventually, interest rates are going to rise, and we're going to have serious problems. As the Fed keeps interest rates low, the way they do this is they print money to buy our own bonds. They create inflation. They buy their own bonds. Basically, the demand. If there's a high demand for them, and there's a low demand for, let's start with low demand. Low demand for bonds. Then you have to have high interest to get people to want to take them. It's got to be something in it for the lender. You're not going to just throw money for nothing. There's got to be something in it for the lender. Now, they keep the interest rates low by buying their own bonds. They can keep interest rates low because they're buying them. But when they buy them, they're throwing money into circulation. And as they do that, the purchasing power of the dollar goes down. Eventually, foreign nations will demand higher interest rates. You've got to think about it. If they're going to get paid back in weaker dollars, then they're going to want more weaker dollars to offset the balance. Any questions so far? Let's go down and check. Okay, let's get everybody understand me so far? Alrighty, good. Step in the right direction. So, anyway, there's several ways to do it. Now, I'm not going to get into specifics. I'm going to get into metals. You can do it with metals. You can do it with buying food. You can do it with anything. Everything's going to go up. So if you buy it at a lower price, let's a can of beans or something. A can of beans goes up in price. If you buy it now, then you're better off. You've hedged. It'll be worth more later. You could always sell it for more. You can buy metals. You know, that would be a good way to go. Skilled hand tools. In a situation like that, yeah, it'd be more of a barter economy. So if you knew how to fix things, that would be a huge asset. I mean, eventually as the dollar gets weaker and weaker, more jobs are going to be destroyed. The way they see it, lower currency is good for, you know, for sales. That's not really true, because if you have a lower currency, your costs go up. Your raw material costs go up. Your labor costs go up. And that, in turn, is reflected in the prices. You pay more. And then, if you weaken your currency, what good is that? You're putting things on sale. You're going to be garage sale prices. You can't stay in business like that very long. That's why jobs are being destroyed. Fix the price of gold. Well, right now gold is undervalued. Gold, precious metals are undervalued. Most people believe that if we just spend more borrowed money, we can fix the economy. So it's way undervalued. They're all going to go up. I think personally silver would be the way to go. It's more rare. There's lots of ways you can buy silver, but there's only a few right ways to do it. And I'll get into that, but it's going to take a lot longer. I'll get into different ones to ways where you can hedge with little money if you want to increase profit potential for later on. If this country goes down, we're going to need people with capital investment. There's no credit anymore. If you can't create money out of thin air, where are you going to get a loan? Collateral. Back in the day, pawn shops were a lot like a bank. You walked in, you had hard collateral. Now you just sign on a piece of paper. And as things progress, they get worse. You can need hard collateral. Look at student loans, bank loans. It's getting harder to do it. I believe, yes, precious metals are undervalued at the moment in terms of their purchasing power. You buy it by dollars. So, yes. Stocks would retain their value better than the dollar. But depending on what stock. I'm not, I don't have stocks myself, but there would be some that wouldn't lose as bad as the others. If you own stock, you own a part of a company. It would lose purchasing power in terms of gold. If you look at purchasing power, let's say that back in 1964, with a silver dime, you could buy a gallon of milk. Today, that silver dime's value will still buy you a gallon of milk. If you sell the dime for its silver value, you still get that gallon. A quarter would buy you a gallon of gas in 1964. Today, or right over a gallon and a half about. Today, it actually buys you a little bit more because in terms of purchasing power, that's been hedged with silver on top of increase in technology. As things get more efficient, the price should go down. However, in fiat dollars, the prices went up. In silver, the price in oil has actually went down because of fracking technology, better equipment, less labor to drill this oil. The price has gone down, but only in precious metals. Can you play clip 1, please, video 1? John? Well, I'm not sure where John is at the moment, so I guess I'll do a little bit of a Q&A for the second.
You and your family are going broke right now, and you don't even know it. When the gold standard was set in place, the price of gold remained a constant $20.65 per ounce, and this price fluctuated only 1 penny over the years 1833 to 1890. That means that for 57 years, the U.S. dollar was literally as good as gold. And that's how the United States currency was designed to be from the very beginning. The Constitution states that our currency was meant to be only gold and silver, to prevent exactly what's happening to the U.S. dollar right now. From the years 1891 to 1930, the price of gold per ounce was still very stable. The low was $20.58 per ounce, and the high was $21.32. And this means that between the years of 1833 to 1930, for a total of 97 years, the price of gold changed in U.S. dollars only 74 cents from top to bottom. Interestingly enough, the price of gold hit an all-time low during the Depression year of 1931. And many people believe this is done on purpose by the newly formed Federal Reserve to really twist the knife in the economy of the day, by reducing the total amount of money in circulation and thus making even the smallest amount of money very tough to come by. There is a common mistake by some people to think that the Great Depression is why the Federal Reserve was created. The truth is the Federal Reserve was in fact created in 1913, and this is well before the Great Depression. Since the Fed's creation, we've been slowly going off the gold standard, until finally, on August 15, 1971, President Nixon, one of the worst presidents in our country's short history, announced the United States would no longer redeem U.S. currency for gold. And this was the final step in abandoning the gold standard. What is important is to visually see the devaluation of the U.S. dollar since we were taken off the gold standard. Keep in mind the price of gold really doesn't go up or move, it has historical value. It is extremely consistent. So instead of seeing this as the price of gold going up, you need to see this as the value of the dollar dropping like a rock. The price of gold has been flying right now. It has recently been as high as $1,030 an ounce all the way down to $870 an ounce. And what I find most interesting is if you want to buy a brand new Corvette convertible in 2008, it would cost roughly $55,000. So in gold, that'd be roughly 60 ounces of gold at the spot price of $930 per ounce. So at the time when gold was $930, you could basically take 60 1-ounce gold coins, cash them in, and buy that very same car. Inversely, if you remove inflation and the devaluation of the dollar, as if the U.S. currency was still attached to the gold standard, as it was originally intended when this country was founded, that same car being bought with the same 60 ounces of gold would have a gold standard value of only $1,200, or the same 60 $20 1-ounce double eagles. So if that car price today is $55,000 and the gold standard value is $1,200, this means that we're sitting on roughly $53,800 inflation over the last 100 years for a $1,200 item. This brings the original dollar value to roughly 2 cents of today's money. I'm sure this is pretty tough to imagine, and some people can't handle this concept and will try and blow it off as incorrect. The fact is, this is what's really going on with our currency. Don't believe me? Try this one. Back in 1964 and earlier, a quarter would buy you roughly a gallon of gas. This is because the quarters made in 1964 and earlier were made of 90% silver and 10% copper. So the spot price of silver being $17.20 an ounce, this makes that quarter's actual value $3.11. So you can see that same 1964 quarter will still buy you roughly a gallon of gas today. And in case you're wondering, it takes about 5.5 silver quarters to make up a full ounce of silver. This is a fact. The price of gold may fluctuate with the value of the dollar, but this doesn't change the fact that precious metals such as gold and silver have maintained their value throughout time. And the only thing that changes is the value of the currencies that are not tied to gold and silver. This is what the Founding Fathers warned us about and tried to prevent from happening with the Constitution. What people need to understand is that the excess printing of the United States currency is just another tax on the American people. It takes the value of the dollars that they have and makes them worth less in the long run. Meanwhile, you're still making roughly the same amount of money, yet the prices for everything from gas to milk are going up constantly, when in fact, nothing is really going up in price. It's the dollar's actual value that's been dropping and not prices going up. I can't emphasize this enough. If you like this video and find it helpful, please rate it and share your comments on the subject, favorite it, and most importantly, please share this video with everyone you know. I can't tell you how important this is. We need to let people know that they're losing all they worked so hard for and they don't even know it. And only with your support and help can videos like this be seen by people that really need to see what's going on with their money and the economy of the United States. So please help support this channel and others like it.
Alrighty, I saw a couple of questions piling up, so I'm going to hit those up, and then I'll talk a little bit more about what's going on. So, let's see. As far as getting silver and gold without the government knowing, basically, I forget the form, it's been a while, it's about large amounts, but if you buy less than $600, it's not reported. So I don't think very many of us have that problem. Go to coin shops. That's going to be your best bet. You can either buy bullion rounds or junk silver. I'll get into this a bit more. If you just want to use it for barter, go into bands, get junk silver coins. I recommend mercury dimes for the reason of them being, some people have poor eyesight. So if you have a mercury dime, it may be kind of hard, or a regular Roosevelt dime, it'd be kind of hard to read the date. However, a mercury dime, it's a lot easier to tell. Also, Washington quarters. The Liberty quarters, most of the years get rubbed off. I feel they can be faked a lot easier. So I would highly recommend Washington quarters. Don't buy any rare or numismatic coins. You're going to get jacked on the price. And if you decide to buy gold, no pre-1933 stuff. Executive Order 6260 did exempt rare and collectible coins. However, they never specified what that was. So it's up to Uncle Sam to decide what's rare and collectible and what's not. So they're going to take it anyway. Let's see. Look for them in your change. They're pretty rare, but they're still there. I would say, yes, nickels would be a good way to go. A nickel is going to be 75% copper, 25% nickel. So a penny right now is worth 2 cents. A nickel is worth about 7. Pennies, 1982, half of the 1982s are copper. The other half are not. So put 82 pennies aside. All the 81 and below, 95% copper for sure. They go for more on eBay. I recommend y'all check that out. Let's see. And no, that wasn't my voice in the video. Let me see. They actually never went around confiscating the gold. They didn't go door to door. They made it illegal to own gold, except in small quantities. I forget the quantity exactly, but it was illegal to own gold, except for jewelry. And if you had bullion, you were caught, you faced up to 10 years in prison and or a $10,000 fine. After they thought they had all the gold, the price of gold went from $20 an ounce to $35 an ounce. So that was basically, I mean, almost cut people's purchasing power in half of the dollars they just traded for their gold. Let me see. Yes, as far as the other question, I prefer silver myself. 90% of the silver out there is paper. 10% is physical silver. If you buy silver right now, before everybody else figures this out, you'll be way better off. I mean, even if the economy, if you were somehow miraculously able to fix a borrow and spend economy forever, you'd still be okay because we need silver for many things. I mean, it's in every electronic. It's the best antibacterial, a great antibacterial, antimicrobial, antifungal. Metals that we know is for purifiers, solar-powered solar panels, rechargeable batteries, medications. I mean, it's probably the most versatile metal, not the most used, but the most versatile. And even if you look at it from the gold to silver ratio, historically it's been between 16 to 20 ounces of silver equaling 1 ounce of gold. Today it's about 60 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold. So even if you just bought it now and you wanted to get gold, trade it when it gets closer to 16 to 20, which it will catch up to. I think it'll even surpass where silver will be more expensive than gold because it's more rare. We've used it for so long, we don't recycle it, and we're having trouble finding it. Let's see. Can answer some more questions, just scrolling through. And you can see why Dr. Paul is a huge advocate of metals. He doesn't like theft. He has that sticker on his desk, don't steal from the government. They hate competition. Online sellers, I have personally bought from a company called Northwest Territorial Mint. I haven't bought from them in a while, but they were reputable. They always took care of me. I had no problems with them. But I would recommend if you're going to buy from them, you want to buy larger quantities if you have the money. If you're not going to buy a lot, you got to pay for shipping and insurance. It's not worth buying an ounce or two. Morgans, peace dollars, and Eagles, they're always a great way to go. They're going to always get more than a premium. You get a higher premium. Whenever you buy metals, you pay a premium on that because you're not paying. Spot price is scrap value, but it's not scrap. It's been refined, purified, and shaped into a coin or a round. So you're always going to get more with dollars and bullion. It's a good way to go. Eagles kind of work both ways. They're bullion and their currency. People will recognize it right away. But nickels and 1982 pennies, especially if you have a sorter, you can get them on eBay about $30. If a new currency, world currency, that the same thing. If it's not backed by anything, it would create inflation and be destroyed. All fiat currencies in the past have failed. The ones in more recent time have pegged to the dollar. So what are we going to peg to? We'll do what the other currencies did. They either get absorbed, inflated away, just get assimilated somehow, or go back on a gold standard. And dimes and quarters are going to be 1964 and below, or pre-65s. Let's see. Half dollars, 1965 to 70 were 40% silver. Eisenhower dollars with the S on them, the S San Francisco Mint, are 40%. They were just proofs. You won't find those very often, but I would still collect them anyway. Go to the bank, ask them for Eisenhower dollars. They cost you $1. Put them aside. If somebody was to bust into your home in hard times, they would think they're silver. Grab them, think they got a good haul, and get out of there. So I recommend doing that. All silver is good, but I'll do another video getting in more depth. In the meantime, junk silver would be your best bet. It'd take a good while to explain it all. There's many wrong ways and a few right ways to do it. Let's see, paper. IOUs, like mining stocks, you're paying. You've got a certificate for future silver to be mined. Kind of think of it like fractional reserve banking. They only have so much of the silver for all the certificates. So if there's a run on the bank, which back in the Depression, only 2% of people lost their deposits. But in this case, it'd be more than that. If everybody ran to get their silver out of these storage places, only the first ones would get it, and they'd probably be guys with big money. Pull it all out, and then you're screwed. If you have physical silver, you know you own it. And certificates, they're not physical silver. They're nothing. Old dollars are nothing. They look cool, but that's it. And silver, yes, the best way to go. All the metals will, silver, gold, palladium, platinum, but silver has the most growth potential. China and India, gold purchases are down because of the slow economy. I mean, basically, they sell to us. So we're doing bad, they're doing bad. But this is not going to last forever. If we are out of the picture, instead of lending us money to buy their own goods, they'll simply buy them themselves. So I would say, for the meantime, buy junk silver, go to dollar stores, buy food, put it up. It's going to go up in price. Buy it now while you can. Let's see. Mining companies would be a good way to go if you had it'd be a steady income stream, depending on which you went with. Gold mining stocks, I know Bear Gold and Newmont Mining, those are two that I was looking to get into myself, but I didn't have the money for it. And depending on how much you should pay over spot, it depends on what it is. Eagles, you're probably looking right now about $3. Rounds, probably $2, $3. Junk silver, maybe $1 over. And you got to be very careful with stocks too. I mean, it's even if you pick a good company, there's other risks involved. Yeah, Northwest Territorial Mint. Peace dollars, that's a good way to go. They're not as expensive as Morgans. Okay. I don't really know on pre-EU coins. Okay. I would, as far as putting your home, it could go down. You don't know. I would just say buy physical gold and silver with what the money you have. I wouldn't go and speculate because it could go down. Keep cash in the bank on hand for emergencies. If you buy silver, the price goes down and you run into trouble, you have to sell it at a loss. So it's a good idea to have some cash on hand, but not very much. Let's see. I would put it aside, even if you own a home, silver and gold. During the Depression, many people lost their homes because they couldn't pay the taxes. We're talking about homes that were fully paid for, lost for taxes. I do like renting myself. Hyperinflation is still worst case scenario, but in that situation, you want to be a renter, not a landlord. Let's see. As far as inflation, I was going to say that basically it is a tax. They print this money out of nowhere. They're taking your purchasing power to pay for things. So they can promise you all this. They don't raise your taxes. They just raise the price of your food, of your gas, of your rent, of everything you use. It's the best way to do it. They take it out of one pocket, take some out, and put it into the next pocket, so people don't really know. Inflation and deflation, no. The inflation would be increase in the money supply, which causes prices to rise. Deflation is a good thing where prices fall. That's how people were able to retire back in the day. The saying, a dollar saved is a dollar earned, came from deflation. If you put dollars aside, prices went down, it was worth more, and that's how you retired. Hyperinflation is just, that's going to happen, I think, here when people stop buying our bonds and they start buying stuff with their dollars. So basically, all the dollars we spread around the world are going to come rushing back to the U.S. They're going to buy our companies. They're going to buy things here at bargain discounts. And all this excess in dollars here is going to cause hyperinflation. The only thing that the Federal Reserve can do is jack up interest rates considerably. But that would be horrible for us since we are in a 0% interest, borrow and spend economy. That would collapse us. I would say so. If, like the Bitcoin, if man creates it, man can manipulate it. Who's to say that somebody won't hack in there and create a whole bunch of Bitcoins? I don't trust that myself. I'd rather have dollars. At least you could use it for toilet paper back. Digital currency, I don't know what you would do with that. And personally, yes, I would say that guns, unfortunately, would be a necessity. And if you look at poor countries when people where people run around with AKs, they're not doing this because it looks cool. They're doing it because it's a way of life. It's a necessity. They have no choice. It's life or death. I would put firearms aside because if people get desperate, they're going to become irrational, and who knows what's going to happen there. Besides that, I'm a constitutionalist myself. I believe that we have the Second Amendment not for hunting, not for self-defense as much, or target shooting. It was meant to fight back against an oppressive government. That's why we have it. The others are just byproducts of having guns. Well, deflation would, if you look at its supply and demand as far as labor, if people are cheaper to hire, you'll have more jobs and prices would fall down. That would actually be a good thing. It'd be shitty for the guy that lost his job, but shortly after, I don't think very many people here have heard of the Depression of 1920. And none of you have heard of the Great Depression of 1920 because it didn't happen. There was a depression that lasted 18 months right before the Great Depression because the government did not interfere. no social work programs, none of that. They let the market sort itself out, and problem was solved in 18 months. During the Great Depression, they decided the New Deal, government spending, infrastructure. It was a waste of money, and it prolonged the Depression 10 years. I personally do not like Bitcoin. Guns, food, precious metal. I mean, if you could grow your own food, that'd be a good way to go. You could sell it. Skills would be a good way to go. In a society where things are too expensive, you know, let's say you can sew shoes together or something, that'd be a great way to go. You could barter for, you know, food for fixing roofs or something. So skills would be another good asset. Liquor would be a good way to go. I guess smokes, if you could put them aside. People would pay good money for smokes. Two sites to look at when you start getting into metals. Kitco.com, I'm going to type that in caps. That's where you can look at the current spot price of metals. It's up to the minute, up to the second. It updates every couple seconds. And Coinflation. This will show you the silver value of all the junk coins that we had in circulation. Let me see. Higher education. I mean, there's lots of people right now with degrees, but the problem is that we've inflated so much, we've got so much regulations on people that would create jobs that they're not going to do it. It's too expensive, and the result, people are going, they're borrowing a lot of money for education, and there's no jobs for them waiting. They have massive debt and no job for them. Maybe a doctor or something, but liberal arts or something. I mean, I'd be very careful what you went to school for. One last thing on one video that really hit me. I want you guys to see this. Another understanding of your savings in the bank. If, John, you can play video 2, please.
Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Parker, on your retirement. We'll be happy to cash out your retirement account today. Just a few of the details. Great. Now let me go get your money. There's a little bit more. Okay, 5, 10, 15, 20. That's it. Now don't spend it all in one place.
Invest in something real. Tax-free, hassle-free rollover. American Bullion. Real physical gold and silver for your 401k and IRA. AmericanBullion.com.
Now, I'm going to say I've never done business with that company, so I'm not endorsing them, but that pretty much puts it in perspective. Guess got a few more minutes, so any other questions that I can hit? I'm not sure if I understand that question. As far as what would you do during the Depression? There were many families living in one house. Basically, you could have a 4-room home, one family, one room. So, I mean, if you look at what's going on right now, we have multi-generational homes. You've got parents with kids, kids moving in with parents. I mean, that should be a sign of what's going on. And this is just the beginning. Well, they're protected by federal law. I would not recommend melting them. They're going to go up in value regardless. Let's see. If you could pay off your home, the quicker the better. You want to be out of debt. Basically, I mean, inflation, depending on how you do it, you could use it to your advantage. Nations as a whole would not be good. But let's say you lock in a price of, $200,000 for your home. And the our prices hyperinflate, and, a stamp costs $500,000. It could wipe out your debt, but depending on what kind of debt you have. People do after high school, just try to get a job. I mean, try to learn real skills that can be used. You could have a degree in debt and no job, or have a job and start making money and work your way up. Prove yourself. I don't know anything on radios. Let's see. A black market would open up if the dollar collapsed. You'd have barter economies. That's going to happen. I mean, the government doesn't want you buying silver and gold. They don't want competition. Gold right now, there's a 28% capital gains tax on that. If people notice that their silver retained its value while the dollar lost value, well, that would give the jig up. Fiat currency is based on faith. So if you lose the currency, they lose control over us. I guess if you guys want silver, gold, anything else, I mean, exactly how inflation could affect you, or any questions you'll have, I've got just a few minutes left, so I'll hit as many as I can. Also, buying silver and gold under $600, just buy a little bit at a time. There's no paper trail there either. Sell it, increments less than $600. No paper trail. I don't like income tax myself. Based on a Supreme Court ruling, I forget exactly which it was, but income was profit derived by a corporation. Nobody in here is a corporation, I take it, so you shouldn't be paying income tax. Irwin Schiff was teaching people to do this, and now he's in prison. All around tax time, they always make an example of him. So I would I'm going to put it down here, and you guys make his name known. Basically, he explains that basically quarters, dimes, all our coins in circulation right now, they're not money. They're tokens. It's no different from coins at Chuck E. Cheese. Back in the day, people had silver and gold jingling in their pockets. Now tokens. I'm not sure, probably rural areas somewhat. I mean, another thing, I wouldn't run to wooded areas. I'm sure everybody is going to be doing that. Everybody with high-powered rifles and scared, itchy trigger fingers, you know, thinking they're going to survive off of deer. We have 300 million people in the U.S., 10 million deer. Do the math. That's not going to last. Back in the Depression, we almost wiped out small or wild game. And there were more wooded areas, less people. It's not going to work this time around for sure. Personally, I got interested in this with seeing how much people lost and watching videos where people predicted the housing crisis. And I'm like, how did they know? What did they know that other people didn't? I ran into Peter Schiff, Ron Paul, Tom Woods, and started listening to them. It went against everything I learned in school, but they were able to predict it, and others were not. So we're Austrian economists as opposed to Keynesian that they teach us now. I agree with that. Farming would be a great idea. If you're a farmer, you've got money. People are going to need food and they'll pay whatever for it. You've got money if you farm or you grow your own food. As far as batteries, as far as there's people that buy tons of flashlights and batteries, I would just say get crank and wind up equipment. You don't want anything that has batteries. Even if they're around, you can get access to them. You probably can't afford them. Walmart. I personally do have guns. Everything I recommend people do, I do myself. Strong supporter of the Second Amendment myself. If you look at it, Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, Kim Jong, Chavez, they all believed in banning guns. They all believed in gun control. Thomas Jefferson said that a well-armed populace was the best defense against tyranny. And I agree with that. Free people own guns, slaves do not. That'll be one of the other shows. That's my plan. I'm buying silver as far as basically the way I see it. If you look at it, prices and land are totally inflated. Silver's undervalued. What's going to happen? You can buy a lot more home if you wait. I'll just go out, people that can't afford it, hey, I'll buy this off you, problem solved. I'll take this, rent it out. Right now I work for a living. I don't want to do that forever. I want to be the guy drinking scotch, smoking cigars, but you're going to need capital investment. So you do it now. The Great Depression created more millionaires in American history than any other time in history. There were people that saw it and planned ahead, and that's what I want y'all to do. There's no way to tell. There's lots of unforeseen factors. I would have figured that we'd be gone by now, but the problems in Europe made everybody scared, and they ran into the dollar. When they ran into the dollar, they strengthened our bonds because there was less dollars in circulation because they bought bonds. Like I said, if you sell bonds, then you're taking money and destroying it. Less currency, prices went down. That's why gas went down. That's why silver, gold went down. I was buying silver when it was $47 an ounce. It's under 30 now. I don't care. I know where it's going to be at the end. So I would say if things continue like they are, we have 2, 3, maybe 4 years if God's with us. No more than that, I don't think. Well, I mean, as far as losing control, you can only pay for a government, or you can only have a government if you can pay for it, troops if you can pay them. Energy stocks, oil stocks would be a good way to go if you went with stocks. Two to three is being optimistic. All right, guys, I guess that's about it. My time is up. Office Space. I used to get that a lot. All right, guys. I will see you next week, same time, same place.